Today in this lesson, we are going to continue what we've been doing of factoring polynomials. Well, so far, we have only studied one way to factor a polynomial, and this is what you do every single time. You always look to see if you can remove a greatest common factor. So here you can see this little picture, and if I zoom out a little bit, you will see that it looks like a robot. And with the robot, you can see the head, the body, the arms, the torso, and the two legs. Now, what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks is our goal is to try to make you a factoring robot. So, the first thing we're going to always do is what we did in the lesson previous. We always look for the greatest common factor. But what if you don't have a greatest common factor, or if it will factor more? So you come down in this flowchart and it says how many terms does the polynomial have? Well, today we are going to look at trinomials. So we're going to have 3 terms to deal with. And it says use the guess and check method of factoring. So what exactly is the guess and check method of factoring? So we are going to start the notes by focusing on a trinomial. So this lesson is going to be 12.6. If you look at the title, you will see a trinomial, but something's going to happen today that's going to make our life a little bit easier. If you notice right here, there is not an A, there is just nothing there, which means it's a 1. So this is our focus for today. Factoring trinomials when? Well, the first thing we're going to have is it's going to be a degree 2 polynomial. Now, if it's a degree 2, that implies that it is a quadratic equation. The next thing we're going to do is it's going to have 3 terms. And you all know if it has 3 terms, that is called a trinomial. And the most important one today is going to be number 3, the leading coefficient. So remember, that is the number that sits out front of the one with the highest degree. And the leading coefficient is 1 today, so A equals 1. So if you look up here, that's why A is not there. It's implied to be 1. Now I'm going to draw a smiley face here because you are going to realize when A is 1, the problems are much simpler to work. Now, the first thing we want to recall, however, is we need to recall what it means to multiply a polynomial. Because if you think about factoring, it is unmultiplying, or the opposite of the distributive property. So this is what we have done so far. We have distributed this binomial to this binomial, and we distribute 4 times. So we would go first, which would be x squared. We would go outer, which is 2x. Then we would distribute the 3 inner for a 3x. And then we would go last, the 3 to the 2, for a 6. And then we would combine like terms here, and we would get x squared plus 5x plus 6, and that is a trinomial. Well, your job today is to take this trinomial and make it look like the 2 binomials. So before we do anything else, I want to show you something with these loops. If you notice here, I did distribute 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But this next time, I'm going to do the same 4 processes, but I'm going to draw the loops different. See if you notice anything. I'm going to go first. I'm going to say x squared. Except now when I do outer, I'm going to do outer for 1x, and I'm going to do inner for negative 2x. And if you notice what happens here, these automatically go together. So this is going to be a negative x. So I've got first, outer, inner. Last is going to go up here to give me a negative 2. Now that is the answer, which I'm pretty confident now you can get the answer. But I want to know if you see something. Do you see, if you only look at the blue lines there, do you see the little smiling man? Okay. Now what we're going to do, instead of using distributive property like this, we are going to be trying to do this today. And I want you to realize that all this is right here is a graphic organizer. Okay. And I'm going to call it the little smiling man. Now, I think it looks like a monkey. So sometimes I call this George, like Curious George. So now, instead of writing out your work, this little graphic organizer lets things happen naturally. So let's look at this one. You have first, outer, inner, last. So there's our little man. So what does our little man tell us? Well, first is x squared. Outer is negative 3x. Inner is negative 4x. So that's going to give me a negative 7x. And then last is going to give me a 12. So you're doing the same exact thing as you do over here. You're just drawing your loops different to make a cute little face. Okay? So now, let's go ahead and look at steps for factoring that you're going to get it right every time. Now remember, I told you the first step of any problem is to look for that greatest common factor. That is going to make your life easier. Once you realize there is no other thing that'll come out of the polynomial, you go to your guess and check. Notice these question marks. It is truly a guess and check. But I'm going to show you the process a little bit better. So, steps for factoring success. Step 1, you check for your greatest common factor. You did that yesterday. Step 2, draw your parentheses and fill in the variable. So you'll go parenthesis, parenthesis, because remember we're doing a trinomial that will break down into two binomials. And you're going to say x and x. Now, here is where the work kind of comes in. You've got to realize that this right here is going to be the breakdown, and these signs, this plus, minus, those are going to be at different combinations. So this is what's going to determine your signs. If your C is plus, then something has happened here. So this one right here, if that's a plus and that's a plus, that means the same signs have occurred in your binomials for that to happen. So for example, this guy, it is x and x. If that is a plus and that is a plus plus happened. Because if you do your loops, that'll be a plus, that'll be a plus, that'll be a plus. Now here, if you'll notice this is negative, then this was a negative, this was a negative, two negatives make a positive. Now, that's typically the easier one. It's this one over here you have to be careful with. You'll notice here that the C's are negative, and these are different. So this means right here that these will have different signs. So with your different signs here, you've got to be a little bit more careful. So here, it's going to be an X and an X. Well, C is negative, so that means this was a positive, this was a negative. Your higher sign is going to take whatever this is. So like here, this would be the largest number. Now over here, it'll be a plus minus, but then this one would be the higher number because that's negative. Now I know that's confusing in the beginning, but before you watch this video, we actually played a game today. And in that game, we called it X's and O's. Well, the O's is, oh yeah, when we figure out these signs, there is only one perfect combination that works. So if you go to number 4, it says find your factors that work. You guess and check. It's just like the X's and O's. So here is what you're going to have today. You are going to have a trinomial with a 1 right here. So that automatically means that you're going to have an x times an x to get you that there. Now the question is, what's going to go here and here? Well, it's easy. It's your x's and o's. Now, if you'll notice, when we played the x's and o's game, you had a number that sat up top and you had a number that sat at the bottom. And you were trying to figure out the perfect combination that multiplied to give you C, but at the same time added to give you B. There is only one perfect combination that will work. So if you'll look at this, C is the number at the end. It's the last number. So here, I like to say C is like the ceiling. It goes on top. And then I like to say B, this is the number that's adding up to get this one. I like to call B the basement. Now, once again, this is just another graphic organizer. So up here on the top, you put your C. So you're going to draw and you're going to put C there. And then this B is going to go here to the bottom. Now, I really don't want you to use this every time because once you get the hang of what you're doing, you're guessing and checking to figure out a puzzle, you won't need this anymore. And this really only works today until we get to later on. So if you need to use this, it's fine, but I really need you to know that you are doing distributive property backwards. So it says check your work by distributing, but remember, this is what distributive property looks like. It is first, outer, inner, last, and it makes the cutest little face ever, which I call George because it looks like a monkey to me, and Curious George is the only monkey that I can think of. So when you see this, this is a graphic organizer, this is a graphic organizer, but at the end of the day, we are factoring. We are breaking down a trinomial into two binomials, and this is going to help us figure out the factors that we need. Now, stop this video, flip your notes over, and the second video will be the back.